Hey everyone! Today, we're diving into a really big and honestly a really complicated question. What's our place in the animal kingdom? Are we their owners, their partners, or, something else entirely? We're going to look at some incredible stories. Stories of tragic power, amazing collaboration, and our deep, deep responsibility to the creatures that share this planet with us.
All right, let's jump right in. We're going to start with a pretty shocking event that happened in Ohio, one that really forced a tough conversation about our desire to own and control wild animals. It's a story about power and what happens when that power goes horribly wrong.
So picture this. It's 2011, and the owner of a private zoo, in what seems to be a final, desperate act, just opens the cages. We're talking lions, tigers, bears, wolves, all of them suddenly set loose into the Ohio countryside. It's a scenario that's almost hard to even imagine.
And the result? Well, it was just tragic. A complete massacre, really. But it was born out of a terrible necessity. To keep people safe, law enforcement felt they had no other choice. They had to hunt and kill these magnificent animals that were, through no fault of their own, suddenly in the wrong place at the wrong time. An event like this just forces you to ask some really uncomfortable questions. Why do we feel this need to own these powerful, dangerous creatures? What is that about? And what happens when the control we think we have just completely breaks down?
And here's the thing. That incident in Ohio, it wasn't just some isolated freak event. The scale of this issue is staggering. Get this, there are more tigers living in backyard captivity, just in the US, than there are left in the entire wild across the whole planet. Think about that for a second.
But, not every story about animals in captivity ends in tragedy. Let's contrast that whole Ohio incident with the story of the zebras at Hearst Castle. They were part of a private zoo, but then a storm knocked down their fences, and they just got out. And today, a herd of their descendants, about 126 of them, are roaming free and wild in the California hills. It's this amazing symbol of nature's ability to adapt.
So we've seen these two extremes of captivity, right? One ending in tragedy, the other in accidental freedom. But what happens when we shift our mindset completely? When we move away from control and towards collaboration? Let's look at an incredible story where animals aren't just subjects, they're our life-saving partners.
Okay, so let's go to Cambodia. The country is dealing with this immense, deadly legacy from decades of conflict, millions of unexploded landmines hidden just beneath the soil. Finding and clearing them the old-fashioned way is incredibly slow, super dangerous, and really, really expensive.
But the solution they came up with is absolutely brilliant. Meet the hero rats. Yep, that's what they're called. These are African giant pouch rats, and they're trained to use their amazing sense of smell to sniff out the chemicals and explosives like TNT. And the best part, they're so light they can run right over a mine without setting it off. A single rat can clear an area in half an hour that would take a person days. It's just incredible. And their impact is just profound. Look at this. A single rat, his name was Ronin, holds the record for finding 109 landmines. This isn't about control, it's a true partnership. We're leveraging an animal's unique, natural abilities to save human lives. It's a beautiful example of how we can work together. So we've talked about direct collaboration, but what can we learn just from pure observation? When animals are left to their own devices, especially in isolated places like islands, evolution plays by some really fascinating and surprisingly predictable rules. It's a concept called Foster's Rule, or you might hear it called the island rule, and it's actually pretty straightforward. Basically, on an island where there's not a ton of food and no big predators, large animals tend to get smaller over many generations. And on the flip side, with fewer predators around, small animals often get bigger. It's evolution playing out right in front of us. And knowing this rule has had huge real-world consequences. Take the Seychelles magpie-robin. By 1970, this bird was on the brink of extinction. There were only 16 of them left on a single island. But by understanding island biology, conservationists figured out a plan. They started moving some of the birds to other, safe, predator-free islands, creating new habitats for them. And look at the result. The population bounced back to over 240. We became stewards, not owners. We used our knowledge to help.
So all of this, it brings us to a really crucial point. When we have these complex relationships, from captivity and control to collaboration and conservation, what kind of ethical principles should be guiding us? How do we make sure we're actually doing the right thing by the animals we interact with? Well, there's this really powerful guiding idea called the one welfare concept. The core of it is that you just can't separate the well-being of people from the well-being of animals, or from the health of the environment that we all share. They're all fundamentally linked. For a community to be truly healthy, all of its members, human and non-human, have to be doing well.
And this idea gets put into practice with a framework known as the 5 freedoms. This is now seen as the gold standard for animal welfare all around the world. It's basically a clear, ethical checklist for our responsibilities, whether we're talking about a pet at home, a farm animal, or even a hero rat out there saving lives.
And this brings us right back around, full circle, to that huge question we started with. When you look at all these different, complicated ways we live with and alongside animals, how then should we live among them?
You know, sometimes ancient wisdom offers the clearest guide. The prophet Micah suggests a path that isn't about power or domination. It's about justice, kindness, and humility. It's a call to really think about our place in the world and among all its creatures.
So, we'll leave you with this to think about. In a world that has hero rats and wild zebras, a world of rescued birds and tragic, painful mistakes, what does it really mean for us, for humanity, to walk humbly with all the other creatures that share our planet? The answer to that question doesn't just define their future. It really defines our own.